Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Using Campaign Automation to Streamline Your Event Communications. My name is Erin Hannaford, and today I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Melissa Bryan. I will be turning things over to Marissa in just a little while as she'll be going through a demo of the ClickDimensions product. Before that, let's go over our agenda and discuss what we're going to cover today. We'll talk about a couple housekeeping items before we dive into the meat of today's webinar. We'll talk about how the event landscape has changed, what it currently looks like, and then we'll talk about campaign automation. I'll turn things over to Marissa and she'll go through an actual use case of how event management and campaign automation can be tied together. And we've saved a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. Marissa, if you want to go to the next slide, we want to make sure that everyone is aware that this is one of 4 webinars and part of a series on tips and tricks for using ClickDimensions in your multi-channel marketing programs. This is the second webinar in the series. If you missed our first webinar 2 weeks ago, we do have that recording available. That webinar was on subscription management. And then in December, we have 2 additional webinars that we have planned, using social media to drive sales and using forms and landing pages to capture leads. Let's cover a couple quick housekeeping items before we dive in. An email follow-up will be sent after this webinar. It will include a link to the recording. You can rewatch this webinar. You can share it with colleagues that you think might be interested. The chat and question features are open through the GoToWebinar panel throughout the webinar. Your lines are muted, however, and will stay muted throughout the webinar. If you have a question, please use either the chat or questions feature and type it in at any point. We will try to get to as many as possible before we wrap things up today. If we don't get to your question live, or if your question is related to your specific use of ClickDimensions, we will have your customer success manager follow up with you. With that, let's get started. The event landscape has changed significantly in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. In-person events essentially vanished, and they're slowly starting to come back. But that hasn't changed the fact that virtual events and webinars have skyrocketed. I don't know about the rest of you, but I know I get invited to multiple webinars a week, and it seems like I could attend one daily if I wanted to. In fact, one webinar platform saw a 303% increase in the number of webinars hosted on its platform since the start of 2020. And 20% of B2B professionals say they watch at least one webinar a week. I'll admit that this is not my first webinar this week. So based on those stats and based on the changing event landscape, how do events and campaign automation communications come together? Well, event management requires communication. Think about the number of emails and messages that are sent in conjunction with an event. You're sending invitation emails, you're sending reminder emails to sign up or register to people that haven't yet taken action on the previous invites. You're sending a reminder to join or a final logistics email, thank you emails, follow-up emails, potentially even related content or topics of interest. And there are also non-email based channels that can be tied into event communications. You might have the need to have a salesperson do direct outreach and follow up. You could be posting things on social media about your event, promoting it via ads. The amount of communications can quickly grow. So let's talk about how campaign automation can actually help with that. Marissa, if you want to go, thank you. 55% of marketers say that they not only improve efficiency, but they reduce repetitive tasks when they use marketing automation. What's more repetitive than sending the same webinar invite out multiple times to drive registrants for your webinar? By creating a campaign automation and having a a webinar invite cadence or an event invite cadence. You save time, you're able to set it and forget it and know that people are getting the appropriate correspondence based on where they are in your event lifecycle, which also allows you to be more relevant in your communications. Let's cover a couple best practices, and then I'll turn things over to Marissa. So when we're talking about using automation for event communications, it's important that you map out your communication plans. You need to consider if you want to use date timers or potentially wait timers in between your communications. And if you are doing those, you need to account for the actual date of your event. You want to make sure that you're being deliberate with your messages. Each message has a specific purpose, a specific action, and a specific message to it. You want to use suppression when you can. If you're sending multiple invites to get someone to register for a webinar, if you have the ability to know who has already registered, you want to suppress those people so they're not constantly being reminded to register. Show them that you know that they have taken an action and be relevant to them. And then finally, you want to make sure that you don't forget about recorded event viewers. I know that I'm definitely guilty of registering for a webinar because I know I'm going to get the recording and then I can watch it at a time that works best for me. And I've seen plenty of other people that have been adopting this kind of practice. So make sure that you're accounting for those people that are going to view your event long after it's been held, and that you have a communication cadence for them as well. There are a couple resources that I want to point out. We'll share these in our follow-up email, but I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that in our ClickDimensions Customer Academy, we have both an event management and a campaign automation 101 course that will go over the foundational elements that you need to understand to get started with using both of those ClickDimensions features. We also have a number of resources in our resource library or blog. Our campaign automation field guide walks through a number of different scenarios on how to best use campaign automation, and we have a number of event management and campaign automation specific blog posts. So I would encourage all of you to take advantage of those free resources to learn more. With that, I will turn things over to Marissa, and she's going to dive into the ClickDimensions product and give you a real life use case of how event management can be combined with campaign automation to make ease of execution a seamless process. Marissa, take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. So today we will go through how to use ClickDimensions campaign automation to streamline your event communications. So the content example I will use will be us, ClickDimensions, in this very webinar series. We'll set up an event connector and then use its records in a campaign automation that we build for invitation and registration messaging. So to start, we'll set up an event connector for our event platform GoToWebinar. So let's navigate in CRM to the settings and support area. On the ClickDimensions settings page, I will scroll down and look for connector configuration. It's going to have a pop-up window appear, and I will resize that for our screen. From here, we can add a new connector by clicking on the Add button. And as a refresher, ClickDimensions Event Connector allows you to automatically sync data from both in-person and online events like webinar registrations and attendees, and then use that data within ClickDimensions and CRM. So starting the connector setup, we will click on Go to Webinar. And it's just taking a little bit of time to load. Okay, so here on the first setup screen for connector name, I'm going to put in an internal display name that will show up on the records that are synced into CRM. Then for the reminder email address, this is an email that will be notified if the connection expires. I know with GoToWebinar, it will ask you to re-authenticate your credentials after 1 year. Then for the last field, this allows you to indicate the default action around lead and contact creation for an event participant whose email address isn't already in CRM. So in the instance that someone registers for a webinar and their email address isn't in CRM, this field determines whether that person is created as a lead, a contact, or if they aren't created as a new CRM record at all. I'm going to set this to create a lead. So now we'll click the add button and it's going to continue the setup where it'll have us log in to GoToWebinar by putting in our credentials. And doing this will confirm the connector with the GoToWebinar service. And it's important that you insert paid account credentials here. And it's establishing the connection. Oh, it looks like I was already logged in. So then we have this congratulations message, but what it would have shown you is the GoToWebinar login screen, and then you put in your email address and your password, and then click the sign in button, and doing that will then have this congratulations message appear. So with that message, this means that the connection is established and the connector will initially pull webinar data into your CRM from the past 90 days, and then moving forward, it will pull present and upcoming events within the next 90 days every hour. So the event management records it creates of events and event participations can be used in a ClickDimensions campaign automation. So let's navigate to those records in CRM so that you have a visual of where they are located. So I'm going to exit out of this setup screen and back in CRM, let's go to the web and events area. And scrolling down on the left-hand side, you'll have the events section. And in the events and the event participation entities, this is where you can see your events and registration records. So now I'm going to show you how to create a campaign automation for our event communications. Using a campaign automation allows you to set up dynamic paths for the audience to follow based on their interactions with the content. So let's navigate to the messaging area. From there, in the automations section, I'll select campaign automations. And then I'm going to, let's select that again, and I'm going to click the new button up top to create a new campaign automation. So in this new campaign automation record, I'm going to insert a name for it to begin with. So let me grab that name, paste that in. Then I'm going to insert a campaign, which is optional, but I like to do it for reporting. So I'm going to insert a CRM campaign that I've already created. Then at this point, I can click the Save button up top, and we can now start building by clicking on either the Builder tab or the Open Builder button. And I'm going to choose the Open Builder button so that this just opens up in a bigger view when we're creating it. And so then let me resize this for our screen. Okay, so when the builder loads, it's going to ask us to choose a blank or pre-designed campaign automation template. And it just so happens that I could use the event invitation template. So I'm going to select that for my automation needs. So here in the builder, we see elements already on the canvas, ready for us to insert previously created content into each. This convenient foundation makes the design process of our automation even easier. We're able to keep the main design as is or adapt how we'd like it. So this automation setup particularly is to run on a marketing list to get those people to register for an event by timely sending them emails, and then depending on if they register or not, they are sent specific emails and then a CRM team is notified. So from here, I'm going to just put in the ClickDimensions content that I've previously set up. So for the first element, we'll set up is the added to list trigger, and that starts the automation with marketing list members. So when those members enter the automation, they become participants of it. For this added to list trigger and its properties, the first thing that I'm going to do is to add a marketing list to it. So I'm going to look up my marketing list of event subscribers. So now that's associated. And for folks who have opted into receiving emails about our ClickDimensions events in this scenario, that is what that list contains. So then in this trigger, I'm going to keep the run on entire list option enabled, and that will have every marketing list member enter the automation when it's published, which means the marketing list already had members on it, but you could associate an empty marketing list here and then add members to it later. So now I'm going to click on the series that already has 7 elements in it. And it has send email actions and wait timers that send an email invitation to the marketing list every couple days to get recipients to register for the event. We can adapt this however we like by adding more actions and timers or by removing any of them. In the first send email action, we'll add an email template that I've already created. So let me look that up now. All right, click add. Once you associate an email template here, it is going to pre-populate some of the fields for the email, but what you will need to put in is your from name settings. So I'm going to grab that now. So it's your from name, and then the from email address also needs to be entered. Oh, and it's not wanting to paste in there, so we'll just write it out. Okay, so then for the wait timer, the pre-designed template has it set at a 2-day suggestion, but you can set it anywhere from minutes to months. So for this one, I want it to wait 1 week after that first email. So I'm going to change it to 1 week. And then I'm also going to change the display name here so that when you go into the series, you can quickly see it's going to wait 1 week and not 2 days. So then for the sake of this example setup, I'm going to remove some of these additional elements by selecting them and then clicking the red X. So I'm going to get rid of that, this one, and this one. And that leaves me with the last chance email and another wait timer. So for my automation, I would like to send out a last chance email. So I'm going to keep that one and I can drag them over. We see that the wait timer and that last chance email is connected currently. So I can drag them over. But what I do want to do is I'm going to want the email to be in between these wait timers. So I'm going to select this line, click delete, and now they're not connected. So now I can drag my email in between. And I do want the email to happen right after we wait 1 week. So to connect them, I'm going to take the right green dot on the wait timer and drag that over to the last chance email. And now they're connected and will happen consecutively. And I'll do the same thing to connect that last wait timer. So for this last chance email, let's go ahead and get an email template for that. And I'll look that up. Select that, click add. It pre-fills everything, but we still need to put in the from information, just like the last one. All right, so then for the last wait timer, I'm also gonna want that to wait 1 week as well. So I will change that, wait 1 week. And I will go ahead and show you a convenient thing that I could have done here is if you like an action or a timer that you've created here and you want to duplicate it, you can select it and do a copy and then click on the canvas and click paste. And there you have a duplicate of that action, which is a lot quicker. Okay, so here we have our series set up. So now let's click the Save and Back button. And one more thing that I want to show you about this series is when participants progress through it, if we look on the right sidebar, we will see it's asking us to choose when this series will end. And it is currently set for when a trigger is achieved. And we would want to keep that for this scenario because if an email recipient registers for the event from the first email, then we want them to go straight away to the event trigger and not progress through the rest of the series emails. So that takes us to the registered for event trigger that waits to see when an email recipient registers or not. And depending on when they do or don't, it will put them down either automation path. So it will have us associate an existing event record here, and the event record that we're going to use would appear in CRM when it's created in the event platform GoToWebinar, and then our event connector that we set up for GoToWebinar earlier when it has synced that event into CRM. So I'm going to search for and select my event here. All right, and then the next thing that we do is choose how long we want it to wait for registrations before folks are put down the negative path for not registering for the event. So I'm going to leave this set to 1 day because we already in that series have it waiting 1 week after that last email. But if you had a specific date in mind that you'd want registration to end by, then you could select the buy option here and specify a certain date and time that you want the registrations to end by. Okay, so let's move on to the positive path that participants go down when they have registered. So this send email action is for our thank you for registering email that will send out as soon as an email recipient registers for our GoToWebinar event. So I'll select that and look up our email. And you'll notice I put an asterisk in the search here. That allows you to just search everything with the words that you're putting in there. I just wanted to throw that out there in case anyone was wondering. So we'll select that and now our template is added and I need to fill in the from information again. And email address. All right. So then that takes us to the following that thank you email, the notify team action that will email a CRM team when a registration has occurred, like alerting a sales or marketing team. You could keep this action or replace it with another. It's up to you what you would like to occur after someone has registered, like assign their record and owner or create a task activity. But in this notify team action, I'm going to search for and select the marketing team. And then I need to put in the message content for this email. So let me grab the subject first. So when they get this email notification, this is what content the email will have. Okay, so from there, with the positive path set up finished, when event registration comes in, a thank you email is sent out to the registrant and the marketing team is notified. So if you wanted to go even further with the automation setup for an event on this path, you could add an attended event trigger after the notify team action for when the event goes live, and that would watch for participants who attended. So then you could send them a follow-up email afterwards. So now for the negative path, we have the send email action, and I'm going to insert our next time email. And click add, and then fill in the fields. And actually, I want to copy this, make it a little bit quicker, and copy the from email. Okay, and then we go. So now when someone doesn't register for the event, after the given amount of time, they will be sent an email like, hey, maybe next time, feel free to continue looking for our emails on events. So with everything set into the Canvas elements, we'll click on the overall save button for the automation. And now that our draft campaign automation is filled out, we can go live with it by clicking on the Publish button. So I'll select the Publish button up top. And I was just about to say, when we do that, if any nodes or elements aren't filled out completely, it will alert us with making them red, and then we'll have to fix them before we can go through with publishing. So here it pointed out that something isn't completely filled out in the series. So let's go into the series, and it's telling me that for the first send email action, something isn't filled out. And it's telling me to put in a proper email address, and I had a feeling it was a space. So then we'll click the Save and Back button, and we'll click Publish again. Goodness gracious, what have I missed now? Oh, maybe I need to click Save. Let's do, at least you're getting to see live how the failsafe works. All right, so with that to publish, it's confirming that we want to publish, and I'm going to click Publish. Okay, so our event invitation and registration communications are streamlined nicely in this automation. That's it for me.
Great, thanks so much, Marissa. We've had a couple questions come in, a number that are pretty specific that we'll have customer success managers follow up on. But Marissa, we have someone asking if there are campaign automation templates to help get people started.
Yes, so you can, when you start a new automation, it's going to pop up and ask you if you would like to use a pre-designed template. But if you're in a campaign automation, you can also click on this automation templates button. And here it shows some different templates that we have by, or that are pre-designed for you to choose from.
Excellent. And Marissa, when I was talking about best practices, I mentioned remembering to account for your event date when deciding if you're using date timers or wait timers. Can you speak to the difference between a date timer and a wait timer?
So a date timer lets you pick a specific date for the automation path to wait. You could say, I'd like this path to not go anywhere until next Tuesday. But with a wait timer, it's just letting you choose how much time in between the actions, where you can choose from minutes to months. So it's a little bit less specific. So the date timer is dates, and the wait timer is just a certain amount of time in between.
Great, thank you. And that concludes our webinar for today. If we did not get to your question, we will make sure that someone follows up with you. Again, I encourage you to visit the ClickDimensions Academy and check out both the Event Management and the Campaign Automation 101 courses, as well as the ClickDimensions Resource Center and blog available on the ClickDimensions website to gain more information about both of these topics. On behalf of everyone at ClickDimensions, I thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you on the remaining 2 webinars in this series.